What do you see? A man or a woman? What about neither? For as long as I can remember, I have felt like I was born in the wrong body. I couldn't place it, but something always felt off. I was raised as a female, meaning I was surrounded by dolls, pink, and sparkles. I was placed in this hyper-feminized lifestyle, and I wasn't really able to escape it until I was old enough to dress myself. At 13, I started dressing a lot like a tomboy. I hated anything related to girls. I hated shopping in the girls section, but I did it to please my parents. I only dressed in skirts and dresses for special occasions, but I always felt like something was off. While many of my friends began to wear feminine clothing and experiment with makeup, I had no desire in any of those things. Around the time I was nearing my 14th birthday, I heard about chest binding. I had a classmate of mine tell me that it made them feel better about themselves. I asked them for more information, but they didn't really know what they were doing either. So one day, I took some leftover duct tape I found at my house, and I took it to school with me, and I began to bind in the bathroom. I still remember the first time that I looked at myself in the mirror. I remember that euphoric feeling and the tears that swelled on me, and the feeling of belonging for the first time in my life. I was so happy, but I was also so confused. I didn't know what it meant. I was afraid of what it meant, and I was terrified of people knowing that I loved this feeling. It became my biggest secret, one that I was able to keep until I was 20. I kept my chest binding from my family by going to school early and binding in the restroom. I liked knowing that it was my secret. I didn't want them to judge me or ask me questions. But in reality, I wasn't ready to face who I was. For the first couple years of binding, I used duct tape, which I soon learned caused more harm to my body than good. My chest always hurt, but it felt worth it to know that I felt like I belonged in my body. I didn't know exactly what chest binding meant at first. I thought it meant I was transgender, but I didn't even know where to begin with that. I remember I was so confused. Some days I would put a sock down my pants and bind my chest as tight as possible to try and be a boy and see if that would feel better. I quickly learned that it didn't. So what was I? Who was I? All of these questions I had floating in my head, and I had no answers. I was overwhelmed and scared because I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. However, my biggest obstacle was public restrooms, which is one of the rights that I fight for every day. Going into a female bathroom and having to associate myself with being female is one of the most dysphoric things I go through every single day. But I also know going into a men's bathroom could potentially be dangerous for me, especially here in Utah. I was afraid, and I felt so lost. I'm still afraid. I fell into a deep depression around my teenage years, and I eventually had to be hospitalized for it. In the midst of all this, I was struggling with my sexuality. Was I gay, straight, bi? I didn't know, because I thought my sexuality depended on my gender identity. It wasn't until my first year of college that I heard the terms pansexual and non-binary. With those two words, everything changed. I didn't know about the gender binary or anything other being options besides male, female, and trans. There was so much shame in trying to discover who I was. I was embarrassed and frustrated, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't be normal. I just wanted to be normal. There was a time when I would force myself to wear dresses. I would force myself to wear makeup and fit into the stereotypical box of being a female. I just wanted to be a normal girl. But that was never going to happen. I was so uncomfortable and so unhappy, and I think my family knew it as well. I was always going to be the person who I was born to be. I was going to be non-binary. So why does all of this matter? Why do I, a person you don't have any idea who is, have anything of value to share with you? Well, it's like this. For as long as I can remember, I have always wanted people to know the real me. Instead of being a woman and struggling with that, I wanted people to understand that non-binary people exist and that it's not always easy to come to terms with your gender. Another reason I'm sharing my story today is to help others who may not understand the struggle of being non-binary. I want to teach people that there are people in the world who don't fit in the stereotypical boxes that society has placed on them. Gender is complicated, and at some point we all may struggle with it. All I've ever wanted is to be treated like a person, with respect and dignity. And while for the most part I get that, there are definitely people in the world who have given me pushback. Oftentimes I argue with people about my gender. Just think about that. I argue with people about my gender. It's exhausting. People tell me that because I have the biological features of a woman, I am a woman. But that's just not true. I have known who I am for a while now, and it was only when I was 20 that I was finally able to learn to love myself and appreciate who I was. Today, I'm 21, and I'm finally free to express myself. I want others to know that it is okay to question your gender, your sexuality. It is okay to not know who you are. You will get there. It just takes time, patience, and understanding. I want people to know, to walk away today, to have some knowledge of people who are non-binary, to know that we exist. I was very fortunate to have parents who adapted to my new pronouns and my gender. However, there are still people who get pushback from their parents. In our world, we are born male or female, but in our hearts, we can be whoever we want to be. I want everyone to walk away today to know that we exist, that we belong, and that we will continue to fight for our rights. One thing I've learned from my journey is that no matter what the world tells you, learning to love yourself is the most important lesson. So this is me, McKay, someone who is happy to be known as a person rather than a gender. Thank you.